but really, really though, focusing on what we want to do and focusing
Right.
on the service and focusing on our core group of customers.
Tell me a little bit about the start of the company. Has there been any transitions along the way? And give me a little history.
My dad grew up in Fort Lauderdale area, and I think I got pretty much most of the story right. His best friend at the time, his dad owned I don't know when they started this, but at some point in time, his best friend's dad owned a rental company, and they were all over at the time, all over the state of Florida. Small tool rental. It's called Actron. Um, my dad went to University of Florida, go Gators, and after college, I think he went and worked for a construction company for a little while, and then got an opportunity to go work for this rental company. Um, Long story short, he ended up moving over here to little Fort Myers in the mid '80s. It's alligators and churches and banks. I think that's all there was here. And now my mom was born here, but it was my dad moved over from Fort Lauderdale in I think the early '80s, mid '80s, something like that. Anyways, he ran a company called Actron. It was over on Andrea Lane, kind of over by uh, I call it Generations. I don't know what it's called now.
Yeah. The roller screen. Yeah.
And I used to go there when I was a kid. My dad we lived way out in the Cape, out near Surfside, back when you could stay on the roof and count like 3 houses. And that was where income and water met. It was way out over there. And so my dad would come home on the weekends with skid steers and all that stuff, and it was great. And anyways, in '96 or something, that company got sold to U.S. Rentals, which pretty quickly sold to United Rentals, which a lot of people have heard of, largest rental company in the world. My dad worked for that. We moved over to Jensen Beach. He worked for them managing their, I think it was Fort Pierce or Port St. Lucie store. And my dad learned a lot working for one of the for everybody faults these big companies on what they do, they know what they're doing, and they know how to run equipment, and they know how to run a business, for better, for worse, depending on how you look at it or where you are in the system, but they make money. And in '99, he quit and called on the people he knew over here, and we moved back over here, and he started All Star. I remember when he started it, they got the koozies made with the wrong phone numbers. It had our home phone number on it. So I'm like 8 years old, 9 years old, picking up the phone. Some guy's yelling at me because his air compressor is broken or something. I don't know. That was my first time. One of my first, deals with rental equipment. And but from there, they grew and grew. Had a wonderful business. Then the downturn, 07, 06, 08, whatever it is. And I saw my parents go through that. It was very rough.
What'd that look like?
Business dropped 80%.
Wow.
Yeah.
80%.
And it was they were, this isn't really private stuff, but it is what it is, common knowledge at this point. I was lucky that Florida started happening before everybody else.
Yeah.
Tennessee was still cranking, Texas was still cranking, North Carolina was still cranking. My dad was able to sell, not a lot of equipment, but was able to sell enough equipment to put away some money, because there was still markets that would buy it, where you couldn't sell it here, you couldn't rent it.
Right.
Just they trudged through it and got through it, and
so he was able to make some strategic moves to get extremely healthy and lean very quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And they made it through. We are at least as far as I know, we are the longest running not bought, not sold, and not bankrupt rental company that serves this area.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
So we've been here for a while, and but yeah, so just kind of cranking away, and as I kind of said earlier in the meeting, not to the moon growth, but good percentages each year. Money's in the bank, people are getting paid. healthy, how say it, healthy work-life balance. That's one thing we strive on. Is for the most part, depending on the position, but for the most part, you're having family dinner. Well, if you have family, you got your evening to yourself. And very, very, very rarely do we ever do anything on the weekends, and it's more elective, if anything. And we still strive to do that because family time or your own time, personal time is important. I came into the business. I had always kind of been there doing this, that, the other thing, in high school and different things. And but in the 2010s, I guess it would be like early 2010s or whatever, 20 teens. I came in, got more involved, working in the shop, driving, this, that, and the other thing, doing outside sales, and then, working with more of the strategic purchasing and buying and planning of the company. And, somewhere along the line, 2017, 2018, 2016, 2017, there was that time where it's like, my dad never made the business to pass on. That was just not his deal. It was, I'm going to do this, I'm going to sell it. And good luck, and that was kind of what the plan was. But there was a decision made that was like, hey, we would like to do this, and I would like to do this, and I would like to have that first right of refusal, and so we made a lot of changes there of we got to grow because now we have to more mouths to feed, more trucks to buy, and we really started growing from there. Then COVID came along, and things dragged to a halt pretty quickly again. And we made sure all of our guys got hours, even though we had to split up. I think I talked to you about this on the last podcast. We split up our team into two teams, A, B, and B team, or I don't know what we called it, but we'd see we shared a fence line with United Rentals, and when they had somebody that got COVID, they'd have to shut down for like 3 days. United Rentals can do that. They got plenty of money. We can't do that. We don't have that kind of money. And so we started working 6 days a week, and we turned like an 18-person company into like an 8-person company because the office, the girls in the office that they weren't in the shop, and that was rough. But we got every guys paid. I think we paid 32 hours or whatever, even though they're only working half that or 20 something hours, but we were paying the 32 hours, keeping benefits. And we kept going, and when we came back from that, we just put the pedal to the metal and just said, we gotta go. Brought my sister in. My sister's been a great asset. Her and I are co-owners along with Chris, and she's much more organized than I am, much better at planning, and I'm just like, hey, it seems like a good idea. Let's just buy it. Let's just do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, well, it's good, but I need somebody to help me along with that, and she's been doing a really good job. And the last few years have just been tremendous growth, but really, really though, focusing on what we want to do and focusing on the service and focusing on our core group of customers. Yeah, I mean, we deal with some of the biggest contractors around, but our core group of customers is that 5 to 25 employees, the owners in the business, and that's that bread and butter, and that's really where there's a huge market for people that have really pushed away from that. They want to deal with the 200,000-300,000 people, where they can have 1 million machines on one job site. It's nice and all,
right?
But at the end of the day, there's this huge group of people that have just been shunned by the big box rental stores, and we will.
And
that's
really
where we shine.
For those small companies, like I experienced, it's hard for us to get in the door, even to those type of companies. So I ended up at you guys. I mean, I contacted multiple rental companies when I was kind of first starting, needed a lift, needed a little mini skid, and you guys made it the easiest, the least friction to get in and start doing business with you guys. And you guys were cool as heck too, and it was just like, a great feeling. And so you guys, I feel like, have a cap on that market, especially with you guys being so centrally located in Fort Myers. Like, dude, I don't care if we're working in North Fort Myers or Stero, like it always seems like we're always passing by or not too far away from the shop, always within like 10 to 20 minutes to the shop, and it's easy to pop in, pick up a machine, drop off a machine on the way back from the job site. And I feel like not only capping that market of those small businesses, but also being so centrally located is enormous value to customers.
Well, and not only being centrally located, but we've also expanded. That's one big thing we've done in the last few years, is expanding our delivery fleet and buying semi trucks and buying Peterbilts and doing this stuff. And we act a lot bigger than we are. You know, we don't penalize, you know, if somebody we right now we have trucks in Clewiston. I have a truck in Clewiston. We have a service call or a machine that we're dealing with in Bradenton. Marco Island, that's all today. Marco Island, Clewiston, Bradenton, that's all today. That's our equipment, and those are places that we've touched with our trucks, along with I think Fort Myers Beach, Captiva, all that today. But where one decision we made, and some people look at it and go, wait a minute, you're losing money doing this. When we look at it, we don't look at the map and go, oh, this is this far away, we charge more. Well, there's rental companies there, so you know it's. You know, say South Naples. South Naples it can be an hour and a half each way, depending on traffic. We don't charge more for South Naples than we would say for Estero, because there are rental companies in Naples.
Yep.
So we're not going to penalize our customer because we got to drive far. That's on us for not having another location. And I find currently that loss on trucking offsets the building another rental company and employing, you know, having a whole other mess to manage. So, you know, we're running trucks all up and down, basically from Bradenton over to the lake down to Marco Island. And years before, we'd say, hey, we're going to take care of Fort Myers and Naples and a little bit of Port Charlotte. And that's, you know, you call from Bradenton for a machine, you know, we're not going to be able to help you, or, you know, call Moorhaven, oh no, Clewiston, oh no, we're just send the trucks. And
that's created so much loyalty. And again, like when you can be that pillar for a company to backbone and trust you, and not have to have 4 different rental companies, one in Clewiston, one in Bradenton, one in Marco, like you can count on one core people and they'll get it done for you. Like that's huge. There's so much stuff for business owners to worry about. And if you can be that person to count on, man, takes so much stress, earns so much loyalty, that be loyal forever.
Yeah, and we see it, and you see it. Even I was just looking on the internet the other day. You know, Google reviews. I mean, it's just one of those things. Like customers like doing business with us, and we like doing business with our customers, and it's a fun place to do it.
That's awesome, man. So switch gears a little bit. Tell me a little bit about the, you know, kind of family dynamic. What has the business done for you and your family to create like freedom when you guys are having cash flow, business is good, you guys got maybe money set aside? You know, what has that done for you and your family to be able to just be in a healthy spot to lead your family well?
So, yeah, I mean, my wife also is employed. She works for Edward Jones. She's a financial advisor. So I'm very, very proud of her. She actually just went back to work Wednesday after maternity leave. So it's kind of new, trying to figure out where to drop all the kids off and do this and do that. And yeah, I would be lying to say that I do not feel very special in the fact that I can do what I do. I can create my schedule. I can do this because there's not many people in that situation, and I feel bad because there's people that work with us that don't have that ability. But it's one of those things where I can, if I need to leave work early, I come in early, and I still get the work in, I still get the time in. If that means I got to cover something on the weekends, I cover it on the weekends. I open up the laptop in the evening when I get a chance, and so the work gets done. But I can do it around maybe picking one kid up from one school and one kid up from another school, and I'm very happy that I've been able to do that. We were lucky enough that, and it's one thing that I see in business is kind of the same thing that we do at home, is you base the lifestyle on like what the regularness is, not this. And it's the same thing in business. And I'm not gonna say, well, worst case scenario, this is we're gonna be able to do this, because there's always worse. Like,
Right.
there could be worse, and it's difficult to plan for that. But it's kind of one of those things where my wife was out of work for a few months on maternity leave. Yeah, obviously she was on maternity leave, but it was there's less cash flow, and
Yep.
it was not an issue. And I know Faith may come up here in this conversations, but it's one of those things where my first child was born 3.5 years ago, November of 2021.
Yeah.
And he's getting old, and
I know.
and it was one of those things where I was like, man, that's my first kid. Like, I do okay, but it's one of those things where I was like, man, I don't know how financially how this is going to work. And I remember being in the holding the baby and getting like 3 phone calls and selling like 4 machines while I was sitting there first day. And it was, at the end of the day, it's not a huge deal, but it was one of those things where it's like, there's something looking out for me here, because, and it was kind of the same thing with this one. When this baby was born in May, it was, really the beginning of the year, January, February, kind of slow, and they weren't that great.
Right.
March wasn't that great either, and then all of a sudden it just started really kicking in, and it's we're going out there and we're making it happen. But it is one of those things where it's like there's somebody looking down on you, and it's like, hey, if we put in the work, it will be provided, and it's nice to be able to be in a position to where one day when the kids do have soccer games or things like that, we'll be able to go, and I'll be able to do that, and as long as this place is cranking and the bills are being paid here and employees are happy and we're doing our part as business owners, we're going to be able to take part in our kids' time. And we do the same thing with our employees, where if there's no one really takes us up on it, but just fine. But it's if you kids got a Pop Warner team, we'll do $500 per child per employee yearly sponsorship.
That's
if there's
awesome.
Very rarely does anybody take us up on it, but we want to be able to help our team members help with their families too,
That's awesome.
on some of that stuff. So.
Yeah, I love that. And see, that's something that's huge, man. It's like we take that risk to put in that extra work to have the puck stop with us. You know what I mean? Like, we can put in the work or not put in the work, but like when we put in the work proactively and we stay a little bit ahead of the curve, like those are to make sure that everybody else is fed and everybody's getting hours and money's coming in and top line revenue is good, and everybody's happy, business is flowing. Like, it's a blessing, we get rewarded differently than somebody that just shows up for the day, clocks in, clocks out. There's a different amount of risk, stress, and pressure that's put on us, but in return we do get a little bit more leeway sometimes when it comes to flexibility of working and being able to lead our families well. And that's a beautiful thing. That's one thing that I don't know if I'd ever be able to go back and be an employee. Not that being an employee is bad, but I'm so grateful for the freedom that I get to bob and weave throughout my day to make sure that wherever I want to be, I can be. And so that is, I think that's at least for me, it was one of the most important things for getting into business, is being able to have that freedom. And man, it's powerful, and it's amazing, because I've had certain times where even as a business owner, like, that was the goal, to have the freedom, but business wasn't good, man, and I was locked down and I was stressed and strapped, and it just feels like eating dirt dragged through the mud for a long time. But when you get to the point where you can be a healthy company, man, it feels so good as a dad to know that, like, okay, we have a little bit of savings, we're okay, like, things are going to be good, we're going to do what we're supposed to do, and just be able to live well. So that's super exciting, man. So what does faith look like for you along the journey? Like, I know you praying when you're having kids, you're like, man, I got to make sure that all these things work out, and God always provided. But has there ever been like a specific time in your life where you're like, I gotta lean on you, or if not, has there been anything that has impacted you, your business, when it comes to like faith and how you treat your team? Or can you share a little bit about that?
So it's interesting enough that actually this conversation came up with my wife and I this weekend, where faith has taken a backseat a lot lately. But that was the conversation, and that was the conversation where it's like, hey, okay, we're through having the baby, we're through this. What are we gonna do? And it was very interesting that I think it was a sermon by from First Christian downtown. I may be wrong, I may not be. She was listening to it, and he asked ChatGPT why it's so hard to keep a fire going. And ChatGPT actually came up with some really, really good ones. But it's that when you start something, you have that starting energy. Like you got like I'm gonna do this, but then you got to take that kindling that's on there. I'm taking his word, so I apologize. There's any copyright here. Where there's the kindling there, but you got to start working. You put those heavy logs on. You got to put those heavy logs. And we've struggled to put those heavy logs on, and that's why keeping a fire going is so much more difficult than that first ignition. And where faith is always living in the background, and that's not the way it should be. It should be living in the front. And so we made we didn't say this is right now, this is what we're doing, but we had an active conversation about that this weekend, where it's like, hey, we need to put this back at the forefront, and not pray when you're having a baby, not pray when something bad happens, but when the good things are there, when things are regular, keep building the fire. And so it's something that we both had quite a bit of conversation about this weekend. I thought that was very interesting, and I was like, this is going to come up in this conversation with Bailey, and it's crazy how that works out, because I don't remember the last time her and I had that conversation. And I also don't really have this conversation with a lot of other people. So it was one of those things where it's that timing.
That is so cool, man. And one thing that's really awesome there is, like, I feel like that is a genuine walk. Like there have been a lot of seasons in my wife and I's life as well that it's like we're going through crazy season, whether it's business or having a new baby or just moving or whatever, and it's just like, man, we need to recenter a little bit. Like things have gone and we've realized that this is not a priority in our lives anymore, and like obviously that's not intentional, but just this life is so crazy and busy, and it's so easy to get distracted. And so those conversations are so important, because man, being able to get calm, like relaxed and clear, and be like, okay, this is a priority. We're gonna do XYZ to kind of get back in the groove of things. Not that like religiously, like to show up and just like do these things to look or feel good or whatever, but like actually having that walk with Jesus and that relationship of praying throughout the day. And like that's just huge. Like that's amazing, because the devil can distract us with everything's going great or everything's going crazy and sideways, and we're just focused and trying to do everything on our own strength. But man, when we're able to dial in and pray when things are good and bad, and just have like Jesus in our daily walk, dude, it's a different life that we live. And so I love that you shared just that genuine, real walk of your testimony, because that's real. You know what I mean? That's awesome.